Hi, I'm Sally. Join me on another Study of One with Marie Forleo. Everything is figure-outable. The chapter we're looking at today is Chapter 7, Start Before You're Ready. This is actually a really interesting chapter because it talks about jumping into something before you think you have all the information you need to get started, and I have definitely felt that way. I tend to be a leap before you look kind of person. She has a couple of really interesting tidbits in here. One of the things she says in the book is, if you're unfamiliar with the term future tripping, which I was, that could be due to my age, it refers to the common human tendency to worry about the future at the expense of living fully in the present. I will tell you something that I think is interesting about aging, and that is this tendency we have as we age to become more careful and less willing to take risks at a time when we start to recognize we don't have all the time in the world. So it seems like that would be when you would want to take more risks and not fewer. But the experience of living actually has us take fewer chances because we know that there's the potential for failure. And I think especially in this culture, we have an opinion about failure that it's not very healthy. Not that failure's not healthy, but the idea of failing, the way we think about it, is unhealthy. If we had been raised in a culture where failure was prized as a way of learning, and instead of saying you failed, you say you learned, then maybe fear of failure would not be quite so prevalent. Unfortunately, it is, and the older we get, the more we worry about it, and the more stuff we have to lose. And I say stuff because I think we get pretty attached to our stuff that we collect along the way. One of the things about the move that I made with my husband from Oklahoma to Virginia over 3 years ago is that we didn't really have a compelling reason to move other than we wanted to have an adventure. Now, it got us closer to family, and that's really important to both of us. And it got us to a place in the country that we found quite beautiful and still do. But I think more than anything, it was the sense of having an adventure and getting ourselves out of a rut. I had lived in Oklahoma for over 40 years, and I think that's probably long enough to live anywhere. Some people live a place all their lives, and they continue to take risks in that place. But for me, moving became the risk that I wanted to take, and luckily I had a partner, or have a partner, who was willing to take the risk with me. So we picked up, and we moved everything. I'm going to give you a link to the video about our move, which is on another channel. So if you want to look at that video, you can. Give a shout out to Fun Over 50 with Sally and George. And you can check that out and see what it is all about. But one of the things I learned in making that move is sometimes taking a risk before you're ready has a big payoff. For us, we moved to a place where we're close to the Potomac River, and we wake up every day and are able to look out at the river, and it's absolutely gorgeous. We live near my parents, and we can visit them pretty regularly. We live in a place that's a small town, so it has a small town feel, and we're both very involved in the community. And we spend a lot more time with each other rather than with all of the various activities that we were engaged in before we moved. We let go of a lot of the things, a lot of the stuff that was weighing us down. And I don't even think we recognized that it was weighing us down until we had to let go of it. I let go of tons of furniture and books and kitchen appliances that I never used. It's kind of amazing the amount of stuff we collect. Now, I've managed to collect a great deal more stuff that I'm going to have to purge here pretty soon, but I haven't yet. So maybe I'll do that and we can go on that adventure together. But I got 3 books to work on right now, and one of them is... So let's get back to the Marie Forleo book, Chapter 7. One of the things in here that she talks about really struck a chord with me, and that is feeling different. Like taking the risk that makes you aware that you're weird. And I wear weird as a badge of honor, and I really encourage others to do the same. If you feel like you're different from everyone else, look at that as something that makes you more interesting and more fun to hang around with. I have always encouraged my children to pursue their own interests, and if that makes you weird, then you're winning the game of life. In this chapter, she says, some people instinctively and happily devote their lives toward a single field. They're clear and enthusiastic, sometimes even as children. I must become a blank, a writer, a builder, musician, neuroscientist, sales executive, mathematician, engineer, inventor, lawyer, actor, etc. Boy, when I was teaching, I had more than one kid tell me they wanted to be a marine biologist, which led me to believe that we had a teacher somewhere in my building that was telling them how awesome it would be to be a marine biologist. I think I know who you are, Marjorie and Vicky. We love those folks. You may be one of them, but some of us aren't designed that way. We're multi-passionate creatives. We connect the dots between diverse and often seemingly disparate disciplines, spanning years and even decades. Eventually, and usually in retrospect, we weave innumerable skills, experiences, and ideas into a multi-layered, multifaceted, one-of-a-kind career tapestry. One thing is certain, there is no set blueprint for discovering your life's work. We're each on a wholly individualized adventure. You must have the wisdom to keep faith with the signals from your heart and the courage to walk your own path. Like the Designing Your Life book, the Marie Forleo book actually talks about this a lot in relation to your work or your job, your career. I'm going to suggest that we look at this in relation to post-retirement, because I think a lot of us leave a wonderful job, a wonderful career where we were clear about what we were doing and who we were and the direction we were going. And as soon as you retire, you have 10 ideas that you want to pursue all at once. I know my sister has said this exact thing. She has all these things that she wants to do, and it's really hard to narrow it down and figure out which path to take. And I'm one of those people who just takes all the paths. So I'm doing music, and I'm doing a YouTube channel, and I'm hanging out with my husband, and I'm cooking, and I'm doing all these different things. But that suits me. I don't know that you have to have just one thing that you pursue in retirement. Probably it's good if you have more than one thing, because it's easy to get bored when you all of a sudden have an additional 8 hours a day to fill. If you have kids and they've moved out and you also had a career, then you have 10, 12, 14 hours a day where you have to now figure out, what am I doing now? It's crazy, right? I think right now what I'm doing is I'm adding blue to my hair. I have a link to my blue hair below, so if you're interested in having blue hair, you can actually order these. I showed them on my last video where you can unclip them, take them out. It's pretty easy. And then you could put it back in again, just as easy as that. Ta-da! Cool, huh? Marie goes on to say, all progress begins with a brave decision. The only way to get momentum is to disobey the voice in your head that says, I'm not ready yet. And there are all kinds of ways that we say this. Sometimes it's not as clear as saying, I'm not ready yet. Sometimes it sounds like the timing isn't right. I need to wait until X happens. I'll make too many mistakes if I start now. I don't have the knowledge. I don't have my plan all mapped out yet. I can't risk blank until I know blank will work out. I think we do this a lot. There are plenty of us who have experience with this early in life, like I'm not going to have kids until I make a whole bunch of money. Or I'm not going to move until I know that I've got this career started, or I'm not going to start dating again until I learn how to cook. That's a stupid one. Or I'm not going to ask that guy out. He's going to have to ask me. There are so many things that we do that get in the way of our taking actions that would actually grace our lives. So I'm going to encourage you to look at this chapter really seriously. Here's the section where she talks about how to start before you're ready. The start before you're ready strategy means exactly what it says. Stop thinking and start doing, y'all. Make a move, any move, send the email, register for the class, pick up the phone, schedule the meeting, have the conversation. Then she starts talking about specific, measurable, and actionable. And if you remember from one of the earlier videos on this book that I can't remember exactly which video it was. I'll try and put a card up here so you can click on it if you want to. She talks about being specific, actionable, and measurable. And here she says, make your dream actionable, measurable, and specific. Oh, it's in the last chapter, so I bet it's in the last video that I did on this book. She makes the point that if you can get specific about it, like I want to travel more, could become, I want to go to Paris in the springtime. Now that's specific, and it's measurable. Is it actionable? Only you can decide that. If it's actionable, that means you've looked up the information to find out if A, you can afford to make the trip. It's going to cost $400 round trip to fly to Reykjavik from New York. So how do you get yourself to New York? There are all kinds of ways that we get in our own way. And one of those ways is by not being specific, measurable, and actionable. We kind of keep it mushy so that we don't have to make a decision, because if it's unclear and nebulous, then there's no specific decision to be made. So look and see, how can you make your dream specific, measurable, and actionable? SMA, S-M-A, specific, measurable, actionable. SMA. You don't need to know everything about your dreams, and you don't need to map out every single step in advance. But start before you're ready. The internet, okay, here she talks about the internet, and she calls it a minefield of distractions that can gobble up the most precious resources you have, time and energy. And I am here to tell y'all, this is so true. If you get on the internet and you think, I'm gonna go look up the price of a plane ticket from New York to Reykjavik. Then once I get there, there's a video that I can click on about these people who took a trip where everything went wrong, and I click on that. And then I'm watching that video, and there's a link to a website talking about how to travel in Iceland. And then I click on that, and I find this funny video about Icelandic people eating weird food in a bar. And then I click on that, and I find out about beers that they drink in Europe. I mean, it just gets ridiculous. And you can spend hours wasting time on the internet. So if you are going to research things on the internet, use your SMA. Make sure you have a specific thing that you're going to look up, that you make it measurable, how much, how far, and that you make it actionable. You know what steps to take to actually do the thing. Don't let yourself go off on bunny trails. Don't let yourself get tangled up in all the little places you could end up going that take you absolutely nowhere. And then you look up and you started out at 8 o'clock in the morning and now it's 9 o'clock at night. Very sad. That section was number 1, beware of procrastination disguised as research and planning. That's a pretty big one. I'm glad she made it number 1. Second one is get skin in the game. And here she talks about how we prefer avoiding losses to acquiring gains. We prefer avoiding loss to acquiring gain. That's just who we are. It's the human way. The third and final thing Marie Forleo talks about in chapter 7 is valuing growth and learning over comfort and certainty. And by that, she means stretch yourself. Basically, this whole section is all about pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone to find out what's out there. And once you stretch beyond your comfort zone and figure out how to do a thing or two, let's say you want to look up the price of plane tickets online, but you have no idea how to do that or where to go. You do a little bit of research. You push your comfort zone. You call friends. You ask them how they do it. Talk to a travel agent. See if there are some options. Look and find out what kind of apps are out there. There are people you can talk to who can show you how to do it. So get yourself beyond your comfort zone to figure something out. And once you've done it, then that thing becomes part of your comfort zone. And now you're the guy who can actually tell somebody how to purchase a ticket online. I found that out when I did some research on train travel. At first, I was a little scared to do it. I didn't really know what I was doing. I had my daughter help me out. She showed me how to become a member on the travel site, and then I started traveling by train occasionally, and now I use the train pretty regularly. And I understand how the train works and why we have to stop and switch from diesel to electric when we're in Washington, D.C., and it's pretty fascinating. And now I'm ready to do a much longer trip, and I think that'll happen for us probably this summer, so stay tuned. At the end of every chapter, she has an insight to action challenge, which consists of several questions. Here she has 4 questions where you look back at your life and think about when you did the things she's talking about in the chapter. She finishes the chapter with a story of somebody who actually accomplished the thing in a very difficult circumstance. And those stories are really encouraging. I hope that you will consider taking actions that actually take you outside your comfort zone and take a risk to do a thing that you've dreamed of doing. If you are afraid to do a really big thing, then take small steps. If you look behind me, you see a painting. I have really wanted to try painting, and I just wasn't sure I wanted to pay for a full class and buy expensive paints and canvases and all of that other stuff. So what I did was I took it's like a sip and paint class where you drink wine and paint a picture with a group of people, and you're all basically painting the same picture. And you can see there's my painting, and then there's my husband's version of the same painting up there. Now, we were both painting the same picture, but they came out pretty differently. And I think they're both great, so we hung them up together. And then I went on a trip where I visited my sister, and we went to a coffee shop, and she brought a little miniature thing of paints, and we painted pictures, and I did my first watercolor that I'd done since I was a teenager. And it was really fun, and it was not bad. She gave me lots and lots of instruction along the way, so it turned out much better than it probably should have. If I had been doing it by myself, it wouldn't have turned out as well. And then finally, I ordered some of those paints on Amazon to work on stuff on my own, which I've been doing. Take small steps. If you want to try something, try it. You don't have to do an 80-day trip around the world to begin with. To begin with, take a trip to the next town. Explore your state. It doesn't have to be gigantic. Take a risk that excites you and then move out of your comfort zone at a pace that works for you. But by all means, step out of your comfort zone. Have some fun. I'm hoping that you're encouraged to take steps to really juice up your life. So thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to my channel. Also, if you push the notifications button, then you'll get notifications every time I make a new video. If you like the video, then like the video. If you want to order one of the books that I'm studying, there are links down below with Amazon. I'm an affiliate, and so if you order a book through my YouTube channel, then I get a small percentage of that sale. And I also have a link to the blue hair clip-ins if you want to try out. They have lots of other colors. I just prefer the blue. They have rainbow. They have green and purple and yellow and whatever color you want. Just give it a try and buy a bunch of them. Try them out at your next soiree. Okay, thanks for joining me. Come back. You can do this. Being over 50 is not the beginning of the end. It's the beginning. So let's get started together. And thanks for joining me on my study of one. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.